have been 2 years. I made a series on this channel called The Crystal Garden and the Fall of the Crystal Garden, related to ipetgoat2, meaning that I went into what I perceive and I took information from other people and made my own kind of twist on it, but it's not just like my own twist. These are sort of like revelations, epiphanies, visions that came to me regarding these situations. And the deeper meaning behind ipetgoat2 is related to Aleister Crowley and the aeons of Isis, Osiris, and Horus, and also Lilith. Lily in the classroom is Lilith from the Bible. The problem is that Lilith from the Bible, her description is completely off to what the actual truth about her was. And so you can go back, and I go into tremendous amount of detail, and I made a series of videos if you go back into the archives. And I also just shared on TikTok, which I put in my community post, all similar ideas as well, like regarding this Garden of Eden, or a crystal garden. I call it a crystal garden for a reason, okay? But in just to get a brief overview, so basically Lily in ipetgoat2 was quote unquote divine feminine mother goddess that ruled over, and I don't want to say ruled because it wasn't that type of dynamic. She was the queen of this civilization that existed before Atlantis, called the Crystal Garden. And she was very much deeply respected. And she, look, I have a globe here. She constructed a series of nodal points. I call these nodal points throughout the earth in different bodies of water. She constructed these light prisms. These light prisms interacted with the water in these locations. One of the primary locations was Lake Victoria in southern Africa. Of course, the Nile in Egypt. We have the St. Lawrence in Canada and Niagara Falls. We have the Great Lakes. And we also had ocean-borne prisms of light. And so what these refracting prisms did was that they they opened portals in other dimensions, and they were deliberately placed in specific nodal points throughout the earth so that that location would be in conjunction with a constellation, and it would interact with that constellation, and information would be brought back from other realities through those refracting light prisms that were on water, because what we discussed with Forever Conscious Research Channel, he was interested in water and its relation to spirituality, and he has a great point. And this was the primary power source, so this was like a combination of magic and technology that interacted with these bodies of water. And each of these nodal points throughout the earth had a different kind of purpose. They had their own, I use the term quantum oscillating harmonics. They had their own harmonics and their own resonance that would encapsulate and capture divine energy from higher realities. And then all those nodal points around the earth were integrated and connected. And this is possibly, I might get into, this is possibly what I might have seen in my near-death experience. This crystalline substructure that I saw when I died and I was above the earth. But these nodal points around the Earth were integrated in bodies of water. They're connected to constellations, and the purpose of them was to create an elevated sense of being. So I don't want to say they didn't force spiritual evolution, but they made it easier and more natural. They created a more natural flow for a soul to evolve in the world and for it to be connected to the divine source. They were basically a bridge to the other side. And some of these nodal points, their only purpose in some locations was to access other dimensions. Other nodal points were extracting light. And when I say extracting, I mean this: there was consent given between both parties. I'm not talking about a forced extraction, which happened later. The consent was given to give light from other realities to bring here. There are other locations, especially in Europe right here, and Russia, that were specific to rejuvenating and reigniting your cells. So prolonging life, tremendously prolonging life. And specifically Europe, those nodal points were known for that kind of light energy, that refracting prism energy that was coming in from other worlds. People in this kingdom, the Crystal Garden Kingdom, they would go to Europe specifically to rejuvenate cells and to prolong their life. Portal stargates. What if water has intelligence? That's my point, Nathan. Thank you for bringing that up. Water does have intelligence. Water is the bridge that gaps all of, is the bridge between realities, essentially. And the elements, the basic elements in general: water, air, fire, and all earth, all those things, all those very basic concepts are actually bridges into other worlds. Okay, so Lilith, right? So the queen of the Crystal Garden, she created this integrated system to have this harmonious and very divine civilization. And it depicted in ipetgoat2, she's depicted in her youth. And Obama is Osiris. Obama is who came and essentially brought an end to her kingdom and took it over. And I wanted to really emphasize that Obama and the green reptilian skinned character in the cartoon that's attached to a serpent, that is the same character. And I also wanted to emphasize that Lilith in her youth, basically a child, is also the same character that's in the lighthouse phallus in the end, as an old decrepit lady. Even though Heliofant will not tell you that, she is the same. That is the same character, and that is her condition and her state now. Now, whether that's symbolic or literal, more than likely it's a symbolic representation of consciousness, because what happened was that, there was a divine feminine element, a nurturing element to the civilization, and it was twisted and inverted and imprisoned and turned into a distorted version of divine masculine, the undivine masculine, right? And if you think Osiris being a reptilian is far-fetched, he was either depicted in ancient Egypt as having green or black skin. So I want you to think about that one. And regarding the aeons of Isis, Osiris, and Horus, Aleister Crowley, of all douchebags, gets into tremendous detail about which aeon had which type of rule. But again, my interpretation is not the same as his either. So, the old crone. Yeah. So, basically, what ended up happening was that all these nodal points that I just discussed around the earth that were, extracting light energy and bringing it to the earth and uplifting the earth, what Osiris did was that he came down and essentially tricked Lilith into some kind of an agreement where he's gonna, have a flood of divine light come to the world, and he's gonna build this marvelous machine that's gonna completely ascend the world into the heavens. It is the way, the trickery that he used in order to imprison her light. So this machine that he built was the Great Pyramid of Giza, because one of the primary nodal points was right there in the Nile River. One of the biggest prisms was right there on the Nile River, and that's where Osiris decided to build his machine. So what he did was that this machine, it took the energy, the light energy from all of these nodal points all around the world, from Lake Victoria to the Amazon in South America to the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes. It extracted all of that energy from all of these connected nodal points, and it concentrated it right here in Egypt. It concentrated it into a singular point of light. That singular point of light was the capstone of the pyramid, which was made out of emerald. It was made out of emerald, and that emerald light beamed back to where Osiris came from, which was Orion. All of that energy, instead of being distributed among all the beings of the earth, the animals, the plants, the humans, it is now all being concentrated into the emerald capstone of the Great Pyramid, and is being beamed to the heavens, to Orion. Now, the big question is, what are they using it for? This is the mystery I've been trying to figure out for a long time, guys. Because I know they're stealing our light. I can feel it. If you look deep down inside yourself, you can feel it too. They're stealing our light. They're stealing our divinity. And they're extracting it for, I don't know, maybe they're perhaps trying to build a massive Stargate to another dimension. Maybe perhaps they are so dark themselves that they cannot exist without feeding off of the light of other realms. So Osiris is basically a big bully. And that's what he did. That was the purpose of the pyramid. It wasn't a happy little go lucky thing. This was an evil demonic device. Okay? Sorry to burst anyone's bubbles about this. But a representation of Lilith's imprisonment is actually found in the Statue of Slavery, the Statue of Liberty, because that is Lilith, just like it is Lilith in ipetgoat2. When she is inside and imprisoned in the phallus, she is imprisoned in the distorted version of the divine masculine, because that hand from above in the cartoon, it's extracting the light, it's extracting the life force energy out of her. So the Statue of Liberty is a representation of that extraction, because she is holding a phallus with a flame. And the flame, that burning flame, is going where? It's going to the heavens. It's going to the heavens because it's being eaten and consumed by something. And what is she standing on? She's standing on a hendecagram. An hendecagram, an 11-pointed star. And in ancient Jewish mythology, an 11-pointed star is associated with 11 demon rulers. Okay? So it's a monument to the siphoning of energy. So everything in this reality is completely inverted. So if they tell you it's the Statue of Liberty, it's a statue of slavery. It has nothing to do with liberty. And that is Lilith. That's not Satan. And Lilith was also, Nathan, this is for you. Lilith was also Athena. Okay? It was also Athena. And here we are today in this predicament that we're in. And what happens at the end of ipetgoat2? what happens is that the new son is born. Okay, the new child is born because, Isis was associated with Lilith in that aeon, and Osiris took over. And what did Osiris do? By the way, Osiris completely destroyed generations of the minds of man. One thing I forgot to mention that I did talk about on TikTok was that holy water, right? So, what did we talk about in the beginning of the stream? We talked about holy water because these refracting light prisms were located on bodies of water. They were extracting energy for divine means to distribute it all over the beings of the earth. And people would also drink this water because it would like remember when I talked about Europe, they would come there specifically to rejuvenate their cells. They would drink the water, and that's why it was considered holy water, because during the reign of Lilith it was holy water. Now Osiris twisted the idea of holy water, and what's holy water associated with now today? Holy water is associated with eating of flesh and drinking of blood, cannibalism. So it's a twisted thing because what Osiris has implanted in the minds of man was to associate holiness with cannibalism. Now I want you to think about that. And so, in the realm of the distorted version of the divine masculine, what do we have? We have death, competition, we have subjugation, we have things that are associated with war, death, and chaos. And it was cyclical. Osiris constructed it in a way for it to be like a snake eating its own tail, where a civilization would reach its peak, then would destroy itself, and then the destruction of that civilization would be a harvest, of all of that energy, and then it would start again. That's what the Ouroboros in our context means. Let me get my breath here for a second. So it's kind of sad because in Lilith's reign, the idea of death, destruction, and slaughter, and subjugation and slavery, all of these things were completely alien concepts that did not exist in any way, shape, or form during the kingdom of the Crystal Garden. And these are patient beings, okay? Osiris, these are patient beings. They patiently watch and corrupt and distort the minds of humanity over generations. Okay, so we're impatient about when the world will end now, but this has been ongoing for eons now at this point. So it will end soon enough. But this time it's different because it's not just going to be another reset. The new child is born, right? Horus, the red-headed deity from ipetgoat2, which I know is strange to call him Horus because in Egyptian mythology he's depicted with a falcon head, but this is his actual appearance. And so is Lilith, depicted as a she-demon in the Bible, as this lady who wanted to be equal to Adam but was banished from the Garden of Eden. It's just to make her look bad. It's just Osiris's version of twisting the narrative and the history of behind what actually went down. So because this is a new child being born, what does the end of ipetgoat2 show? It shows the little serpent escaping, right? Because he remember the egghead child, he's controlling the mind of the egghead child. And so that control is coming to end. He's like trying to yell at him. Remember in the cartoon, he's trying to scream and yell and like, I'm here. But the child is so jaded and so tired. That child, by the way, represents mankind overall. He doesn't care anymore. He's just indifferent to all of the suffering. And this is the point that we've reached to right now on Earth, where the masses have become indifferent to all of the suffering. And so he does, so the egg, remember the child and the egg in the cartoon, he does attempt to wrap his serpent tail around this egg because he wants to take it over. He doesn't want this new consciousness, this new child to be born. He wants to continue ruling his kingdom and extracting that energy from the Great Pyramid and taking it to Orion, which is interesting, by the way. That capstone is gone on the Great Pyramid, and it's no longer a functioning machine, and it hasn't been for a long time, but that doesn't mean they're still not extracting light energy. They're just doing it in a more covert way. Okay, there's still a symbolic representation of that extraction in the Luxor in Las Vegas with that light going into the sky. Okay, so Horus being born will inevitably cause Osiris to run away, and Lilith will presumably be freed, and both of them will escape this dimension, and it will be a completely new type of consciousness and rulership, or whatever the case may be, over the dominion of this plane. And it's interesting. A lot of people are gonna think it's the Antichrist, or they're gonna think it's Jesus, because I know deep in my soul that it's neither one of them. Neither one of them. Okay, I just know it. So yeah, guys, that's Shadowback. Thank you. That's the story. That's the story of the fall of the Crystal Garden. If anyone has any questions before I go, I'll go on for a minute or until 25 minutes. And I know that was a lot of information to take in, but the holy water, and regarding the holy water, the Holy Grail is another thing. The Holy Grail was not a cup associated with Jesus. What happened was that the Knights Templar actually contained a piece of this technology. They actually had a refracting light prism with them, physical object, and this was rejuvenating them. It was giving them life. And they found it somewhere in Europe, where one of the original ancient nodal points was, that had the grid, the energetic grid over the earth. And they found this object, and they knew about the real history about Lilith and the fallen kingdom. And they hid the object. The Knights Templar, they hid the object. To this day, no one knows where it is. And they were tortured in the most horrible way possible and put to death, because, not because they were evil men or whatever, but because they wanted to tell others the truth about the history of this world and about this light prism. And they still exist, guys. These light prisms, they essentially look like pyramidal mirrors, reflecting mirrors. They still exist all over the earth. They're just buried very deep somewhere, but they're still here. And a lot of them are gone because all of the energy from the pyramid was siphoned, and all of that light energy was used, and a lot of that technology was lost because it collapsed. It was just overused. It was abused, and it fell apart. But some of these crystals, for lack of a better word, crystals, they're still here. So why am I making this video? And Conscious Anxiety, thank you. Yeah, I'm about to go now anyway. I've just been meditating a lot about this crystalline structure I saw in my near-death experience. And as a result of that reflecting and meditation, it always brings me back to Isis, Osiris, and Horus, and that kingdom. And whether it's true or not, I have no freaking idea. But I believe that this was shown to me for a reason. And that's what this crystalline structure was over the earth. Okay? It was intended as a divine, power to uplift the world, and resulted in being the opposite, or resulted in being an energy harvest. An energy harvest going to literal reptilians. Like remember, there's a literal reptilian in ipetgoat2 with green skin. Why do you think it's a reptilian? Because he's a reptilian alien, and Osiris was a reptilian alien. So these are bastards. These are sons of bitches. And I guess it's good that they'll run away when Horus comes, but Horus is just another jackass. So I don't know.